Good morning. I would like to call the January 20th, 2015 City Council meeting to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Here.
Soldner. Here. Pyros de Carvalho.
Here.
Dave Line.
Here.
Prowett.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and this morning's prayer will be given by Darrell Peterson with Grace Christian Church. Good morning, Darrell.
Good morning. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just count it a great honor and privilege to come before you this morning. Father, we lift up this community, and Father, we just thank you as the community has good leadership, that Father, it's not only the leadership, but it's all of the people that is involved underneath the leadership. And Father, we pray for each and every person that is employed by the city of Hutch. And Father, just let them know how important each part of this body is. And Father, we thank you so much for our leadership. We thank you, Father, for our council commissioners, our council members, Lord, and the time they put in, the effort they put in, and the study they do. And Father, we just lift up an issue, Father, with the police department and the fire departments, Lord God. We pray divine protection around each one of those departments, Father. That, Father, we know that as times things gets rougher and things get not quite as good, but Father, we thank you that they stand in the gap between us and the adversity of life. And we thank you, Father, for their protection. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 4, oral communications from the audience.
This is a time where if there is anyone in the audience who would like to address council, we invite you to come up and do so. If you would, we ask that you state your name and address, and please limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Doris Shadler Clark. I have a complaint about chickens and roosters across the street from me. We have complained to the city offices here. We've been in, we've called, we've complained to animal control, and nothing gets done. They tell us they can't go on the person's property, so the chickens and roosters just get to continue bothering us and our neighbors. And I read this ordinance online, section 7104, keeping animals, fowls, birds in offensive manner is not allowed. They told me they could have 4 chickens but no roosters, and those crazy roosters cock-a-doodle-doo all day long. And so we would like you guys to do something about it, please. That's at 400 East Carpenter.
Okay, is that the address of the,
The
where
rooster,
the
yeah, there are some.
roosters are? And
south
your
of-
address was?
My address is 327, right across the street. There are some south of us. I haven't identified it other than the noise, but we could certainly drive and find them. But the ones directly across the street are very annoying to us and the neighbors.
You've already, excuse me, and you've already contacted animal control? And
I've
they-
contacted here, and they said it's an animal control problem, and I've contacted them, and they say they've sent them notices and et cetera, but the animal control told me he cannot go on their property, and so they just get to stay there. So I would like you guys to do something.
Okay.
We'll check
We'll
into that.
definitely look into that, and it's probably a point where that issue would probably be referred to municipal court then if they continue to be in violation, so.
Okay. Yes, unfortunately, sometimes things take a little bit of time, but we will
Well,
definitely
we've
look
been dealing with
into.
it for almost a year.
Yeah, so we will,
We'll look
It's
into
time something else was done.
okay, thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank
bringing
you.
that up.
And then, John, we'll have somebody get back in contact with,
Yes,
With her.
Mrs. Clark about this.
yeah, Janet got her name down, we'll definitely do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. My name's Charles Buckaloo, and I'm with an organization called Cause for Paws. And I wanted to come by today and invite you all to come out and see us this weekend. We're having our annual Bet for Pets night. It's a kind of like a casino fundraising event. There's all kinds of activities go on there. There'll be a silent auction, a live auction, just a number of different things will be happening. And it's definitely a lot of fun. the girls give me a list every time, and of course I never stick with it, but a couple of the things that caught my eye here, there is some Wichita State University men's basketball tickets for the February 11th game. There's some sports ticket packages for Wichita State University, some KU basketball tickets. Can you tell we kind of like sports, some of us? There's a football signed by Bill Snyder for some of you collectors, and there's just tons of different items and things that'll be available there. It's all I can tell you is just a lot of fun. If you get time, come out. It's 7 o'clock till 11 on January 24th at the Kansas Cosmosphere and Space Center. Some of you have been out before to some of our functions, and I think you enjoyed them, so we'd love to see you again. But definitely come on out and have some fun, and we'd be glad to see you there. And if you don't solve the chicken problem, I do like fried chicken, so.
Charles,
We'll let
Charles,
you go catch them.
could you just briefly explain what the money from the fundraiser is used for?
Oh, Cause for Paws, yes, thank you, Bob. Cause for Paws is an animal support group. There's a very big distinction in the animal world between a support group and a activist group. We're definitely not an activist group. I ain't chaining myself to anybody's tree. And I'm having my hamburger for lunch, so, if that offends anybody, I'm sorry. But the money we raise here locally, and we've been around here for 9 years now, 9 years, I guess, we have paid for over 2,200 spay and neuters. And if you don't know what those costs are, about $100 a pop. We will pay for the spay and neuter of your pets if you can't afford it, and glad to do it. We have an animal rescue van that has been a big help to the shelter. Instead of destroying animals here, we load them up and we'll haul them to Kansas City and Denver, Colorado, and places like that with all volunteers. The city's been wonderful in helping us and always working with us, and we like to think we work with them when we can. So there's just lots of different programs we do, but they're all, I call them support programs. I'm not trying to tell you what kind of pet to have or where to have it. I just want to make sure the ones we do have are taken care of. And we've got some areas we want to work some more with y'all on, but we'll get to them when the time comes. Right now, some of our major programs, like the STOP program, it's real easy to go through $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a few months, and we don't want to come to the public. We've tried never to ask for city funding. It's the same group of people that raised money for your new animal shelter. We built the Hutchinson Dog Park and gave to the city, and I mean, we're involved in a lot of different animal programs that we hope helps the community and the people in it, and then it can help people also, because anytime you're helping pets, usually you're helping people. A lot of them, that's their children, and it's very hard for them to understand. But we have a Meals on Wheels program for pets. There's just a ton of areas we work in, all volunteer staff, all volunteer personnel, no paid positions. And most of the people are just super nice people. Somebody like me slides in under the radar occasionally, but I would be happy to talk to anybody about Cause for Paws, and I could take. John just threatened me at the door and told me 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm going to quit now while I'm here, so I don't get started, because I could stand here and talk to you the whole meeting on Cause for Paws.
Well, Charles,
and
that's
the
something
things they've accomplished.
I think Bob prompted you into
I
it.
asked you a
Yeah.
question, so I apologize for that. I didn't realize you were going to go into speech.
We got in
mode.
another little plug that way, and John can't blame it on me.
That's all right. So,
And
thanks, Charles.
Cindy, I was really disappointed in you this year. I really was.
Oh, I have a feeling I know.
Yeah. Cindy came to we do several functions throughout the year, and she's always at the Mutt Strut. And that's where we do a little run, walk around, 1, 2, 3 miles, And Cindy was out there with this three-legged dog of hers and her daughter, and they came in first. A year and a half, they beat hundreds of people out.
And
and
that
ran
wasn't
them.
me running, that was my daughter
I
and the
know,
dog.
they did a wonderful job. And just for the record, John come in almost last. Well, I wasn't gonna mention that. Anyway, guys, if you ain't doing anything to say, come on out, meet a bunch of the people. There's people you will know out there. Lots of other people you'll enjoy getting to meet, and we'd be happy to see you there. So unless there's any other questions, I'll get off the mic.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the next item?
Item 5A, public hearing to consider redevelopment district and redevelopment plan for the Hutchinson Mall property.
Make a motion, we approve the open to public hearing as presented by staff.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave-Line.
Yes.
Pruitt.
Yes.
Mayor and council, I'll just make a couple opening comments and introduce our representatives today. But as you're aware, the city's been asked by the new ownership group of the mall to create a redevelopment district and a redevelopment plan for development of the Hutchinson Mall. And the hearing today is one of the many steps in the process to complete. And with us today, we have representatives from the ownership group, Andy Weiner, who's president of Rockstep Capital, as well as Corbin Maxwell. And what we thought we might do at this point in the public hearing is have them talk a little bit about the project and the process that we'll be going through to ultimately consider and approve this plan. We can then take public comment at the end of their comments and questions that you might have, and we close the hearing and then consider the additional legislation before you as it relates to this item. So this time I'd turn it over to Corbin Maxwell, representing Rockstep Capital.
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the council, as John said, Corbin Maxwell at the Polsinelli Law Firm in Kansas City, here today on behalf of Rockstep Capital. I have with me as well the president and managing member of Rockstep, Andy Weiner. And we are very excited to be before you again and present to you on what we think is a very, very exciting project that is great for the mall, great for Rockstep in being able to redevelop this mall. But really the reason we're in front of you here as the representatives of the people is we think this is a great day for Hutchinson. This is the start of the process under Kansas law to provide economic incentives to this project that are authorized under Kansas law. And those incentives that we are coming before you to make a request on is for tax increment financing and for a community improvement district. We were able to talk through those with you in your work session, but to give the high level points again of what we're really focused on is Andy and his team have laid out a over $18 million redevelopment project for the mall. That $18 million redevelopment project, as we have said, is all based on tenants and the market, but the plan is to come in and begin to re-tenant this mall with significant national retailers for this community and provide all of us something we can be proud of. To be able to go and make those deals and make these retailers want to come back to a property such as this, we are going to have to provide them significant economic incentive, and significant economic incentive that cannot be done privately because it makes no economic sense to be able to do it. Unfortunately, that is just purely the world we live in the state of Kansas with our demographics and otherwise, to be able to get these national retailers to come back to these properties. It is common. It is done in communities all across the state, and I've been involved in many of those. We feel very strongly that we can turn this property. We can make it something that this community will be proud of, but we need the assistance of tax increment financing and the community improvement district. Specifically, we are here today, this public hearing, and then the next piece is just about creating the redevelopment district. The redevelopment district is the stage where we would be freezing the assessed value at the current levels, freezing that tax level so that then we can capture the increment for a period of years going forward of the increased taxes that happen at the mall through our investment in it. That is a significant step, an important step, and something that we're pleased to be in front of you to talk about today. I think following up after that, we have a memorandum of understanding, a non-binding agreement that generally lays out how the rest of the process should work. We would be available and happy to answer any questions about either the redevelopment district or the memorandum of understanding. But we are happy to be in front of you today. We ask for your vote in support of this. I will give Andy a chance to step up to the mic and present a little bit on the redevelopment plan, and then I would, Mayor, if appropriate, reserve a little bit of time at the end in case there's comments or concerns from the public that we can step up and address those prior to closing the public hearing. Sure. Thank you very much. Unless anybody has any questions for me at this time prior to hearing from Andy. Thank you.
Corby, you want to describe the district boundaries, if you would, just for the benefit of the public?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll step away from the mic if that's okay, but it is the core, what I would call the core mall property. Andy and Rockstep closed on the core mall property. That includes all of the built environment, but for the Hobby Lobby and the Orschelns on the end. That is owned by separate ownership, and it's then the vacant ground that came along with the purchase as well. It does not include the 7-acre tract or the 10-acre
Does not
tract.
include
Does not include
on 11th
that.
Street?
It does
All
not
right.
include those tracts. It just includes the core mall property that Andy was able to purchase from the bank.
And we'll be discussing the memorandum of understanding in greater detail in a while, right? So we can reserve questions.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor, City Council, City staff, citizens of Hutchinson, I really want to thank you for the opportunity to bring this redevelopment plan forward to the city. Looking back on what we're trying to do here, we absolutely, positively believe that this is doable. We met here probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. This plan will take somewhere between 2 and 3 years to basically incentivize a group of national tenants that are in Wichita to come to this market. We have started on this process. This process is primarily financial incentives to have them come here. We are very convinced that we will be able to not just fill the former Dillard space, the former Sears space, the former Goody space, but as you walk through the mall in its current state, there's a lot of empty space on the inside of the property. And we feel that we'll be able to fill a good portion of those as well over a 3-year period. I really want to thank the city. I want to thank the city staff for doing this. Our first step is to be able to stabilize the current tenants, stabilize the current assets, invest in new signage, which we have started that process as of yesterday to do that with the support of the city. And we are very optimistic that this process will be successful. It is very hard work. It really will take all of us, ourselves, our private capital, the public capital, as well as the citizens of the region to really turn back to that property and start shopping there again. So I want to leave it there unless we have any specific questions at this time.
Andy, could you talk about a little bit about your experience redeveloping other malls?
Sure. Our company has been in business for close to 20 years. Before that, I ran operations for a chain of clothing stores. I'm very, very familiar with the retailing industry. I'm a student of retailing. I really follow it very, very closely, and I understand the dynamics of what's happening in this consolidated world and what's happening in as a result of the internet, which really is affecting many different sectors within the retailing industry. Our company has built or acquired close to 5 million square feet of shopping centers throughout the country. We have been involved with about 7 malls. We have taken malls that are in much worse state and we have shown dramatic increases in those properties. It has taken generally 3 to 4 years. It has taken significant amount of capital, very hard negotiations, a bit of luck. You know, some of this is timing. And right now, there are retailers who do want to come to this market. They want a signage program, and they want significant amount of capital, and they really want a package. They don't want to come by themselves. They want to know that they're going to be coming with other neighbors who are going to fill up some of the other big boxes. So it has to be done basically as a package, and they want to know that there is a landlord, a promoter, who has the ability to put it all together and do it within a package and do it with very, very complex leasing structures and incentives and penalties for lack of performance with these retailers. We work with all the national retailers, department stores, junior anchors, specialty stores. Deals are very hard. The challenge is that there are few opening slots per retailer. And so you really want to make sure that Hutch gets one of those slots. And it's one about the package, and number two, you've got to give them economic deals that they simply can't turn down. You have to give them an internal rate of return that meets or exceeds their hurdles compared to their other options. And as a result, we understand what those dollars are, and we have a reputation of working in secondary markets and really putting a lot of capital in these projects, and really being hands-on. We're out here. We are leasing. We are actively working on parking lot and roofing issues. We're talking to tenants. We're getting our hands dirty, and we are not sitting at our home, office and getting the job done. It won't be successful if you do it that way. We love what we do. Our mission is to make secondary markets better, the markets we live in. We really believe that. We love what we do. We absolutely believe in Hutchinson. This market is underserved. It really is. I mean, I went through Wichita yesterday. I'm going through Salina today. I really want to understand the competing markets here, and it's absolutely doable that we can incentivize some of the folks that are in Salina and some of the folks that are in Wichita to come here so that this community doesn't have to drive to those markets. It's a quality of life issue. It will be middle America type of retailers. Those are the ones that will look at this market. They are very, very solid. They got great balance sheets. They really don't pay much rent. And they require a lot of cash. So the answer is we've done it before. It's doable. It is hard work. It takes all of us working together, and it takes 3 years. I mean, and I've mentioned that before. The first year is, I call it the setup year. Put your finger in the dike, keep some of the existing tenants here who are threatening to leave. And then it's putting the sign packages together, putting the incentives together, and then coming to these group of, call it 10 national retailers, and throwing them a very, very solid incentive program combined with you're not going to be by yourself. That's how it gets done.
Andy, I don't want to get into...
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
And just as a follow-up,
Sure.
one of the big problems that we had with the prior owner of the property is that as issues came up, we had no way to get them to pay attention or to contact us or really to speak with us, whether it was the city or the chamber.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit more about your management philosophy and why that'll be different?
We are the polar opposite of the previous landlord. And I will not talk further about them.
No.
Okay? I have my own capital invested in that building. Okay? I have signed a note with the major bank here in this community. I'm personally guaranteed on that note. My staff has incentive for this thing, financial incentive for this thing to be successful. There are investors throughout the country who have bet on Hutch. I don't sleep at night because I am scared that I am going to mess up. And we love what we do. We are out here. We answer the phone. We work very hard. And we really believe in this community. I've seen thousands of communities. That property is a great location. It's a decent looking property. This is a wonderful market that's underserved. It's a crime that Dillard's left. It is if I was here, Dillard's would not have gone. Guaranteed. That's history. Okay, it's just criminal what happened. We will be able to turn it around. All of us are going to work together. This city, this staff has been extremely cooperative. And it seemed like a lot of incentive money, very frankly, money gets eaten up very fast by these big boys. They know how to get good deals, and we'll make good deals. We are deal makers. So I'll answer the phone, my staff answers the phone. You'll see some of them here. They'll participate in these meetings alongside myself. We are here all the time. We are hands-on. We manage the properties ourselves. We lease it ourselves. We're in the trenches. Did I answer the question?
It did. I understand that you have you've already hired a manager for the mall?
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that person's qualifications?
Yes. Laura Barb, she was right here. We believe in having people who are quality professionals, honorable business people. She has experience prior to our acquisition working with the receiver. And we believe that you don't have to have 20 years of mall experience to be a great mall manager. You have to care about your community, you have to be honorable, you have to be a good professional, and you have to communicate with your tenants. We're in the business of making sure that our tenants are profitable. That's it, I'm a retailer. Those stores have to make money. If they can't make money, I've failed. And they make money by having a shopping center that has a good mix of folks, good mix of tenants, that has events that bring in the community, that has a rental structure where they can make money, and that has co-tenancy, that has a number of neighboring tenants that drive traffic. Plus, the roof's got to be fixed, parking lot's got to be maintained. I call it nuts and bolts. It really is a nuts and bolts issue. We are very lucky to have Laura on board. We struggled beforehand, very frankly. And I'm convinced that we've got the right team to make this thing happen. We've got the right leasing folks, the right property management folks, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, did I answer your question?
You did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy, a couple of
Yes.
follow-on questions. Don't
Yes.
want to get into your proprietary portion of your business.
You want to
but,
know about my kids? Is that what you
no.
want to know? Okay. Okay.
You've outlined here in your pro forma an estimated $18.4 million project, and
Yes.
you've separated that in terms of hard costs, soft costs, and so on. And I fully appreciate the component of the incentive piece
Sure.
to the tenants. But give us some idea of looking out 3 or 4 years of the physical plant in terms of what that might look like and where your focus might be in terms of the upgrade of the physical plant of the mall.
Can you be more specific when you say the physical plant?
The mall, it's the elevations, the exterior, the interior, the corridors, all of that, I guess,
Yeah, let me.
in a 30-year-old property.
It's a great question. It's a great question. In today's world, given the type of retailers that will come to the market in this cycle, that mall cannot, the numbers don't work to demolish it and start over. They just don't work. So what you do is you generally have to work with the existing layout to make it work. What that means is most likely the former Dillard space will end up having multiple users that will be divided out and that will have completely new facades. It will look like a new center. The goodie space will have a new tenant, and probably between the goodie space, the former goodie space, so in other words, I'm going to walk away from here for
Sure.
a second. The goodie space was right here. Okay, the Dillard space is here, the Sears space is here, and the Penny's is still in existence, right here. So the Dillard space most likely will have 2 or 3 tenants, national users that are currently in Wichita. Okay, we'll divide those spaces out. It's called demising the premises. Put on new facades, new entrances. It will look like a brand new center as you look at it. It won't look like an old Dillard's. Then you'll do the same thing with the former goodie space. possibly you'll combine the space between Goody's and the Dillards and face it out. In other words, facing it out is more desirable for two reasons. One, tenants love it, and number two, it's a little bit easier to access those tenants from the community perspective. The Sears space at 72,000 feet most likely will be 2 or 3 tenants, but we're talking to one tenant right now who might take the whole thing. And then on the interior, we believe that we'll be able to get 2 to 3 new tenants per year, the specialty stores that are in Town West, Town East, that are going after middle America markets. They'll come after these start to fill. Now, and then we would do new facades on the Sears, new facades on the Dillards, possibly new facades as you look to the Dillards on the left, with the old movie theater was. And so the outside appearance will have a dramatic upgrade, but I don't see major demolition. I don't see kind of this lifestyle center because the numbers don't work. They don't even come close to working. This is not the Galleria in Dallas. This is not where we are. Okay. The other thing I want to mention is we're not going to get the upscale retailers. We're not going to get the Banana Republics of the world. We're not going to get the Talbots of the world. They're not expanding at all in general, and they're really not coming into this market. We're looking more for folks that are going after the middle markets of the country, and there are a lot of those that are expanding. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? These are great questions.
I had well, there are several questions, I think, around the specific funding mechanisms that are being used, the TIF and the CID, but as I recall, there is a very long process for it. Like, we are not establishing the CID today,
No.
correct? So are those things that we should address at a late, I don't want to bother with questions.
Well,
It can
I
be
think it's
addressed.
appropriate. The next one of the items we'll deal with is a memorandum of understanding, which is really just a general intent of the responsibility of both parties. It doesn't bind the council to anything, but it does talk about the TIF, the property tax, sales tax component,
The
and
caps.
also the CID.
Okay.
So, you know, we can talk about that now or talk about it during that item. But again, today's action is not binding. It's just really the first steps in the process.
Yeah, that's just the clarification I needed. Thank you.
Are we
Thank
good?
you.
Great, thank you.
Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this issue? And as normal, we ask that you state your name and
Good morning, Council. Jim
address.
Strawn, local builder developer. Just wanted to stop in and thank the Rock Step Group for investing in the Hutchinson Mall. I think that over the last several years, we've done a lot of projects here in Hutchinson that will improve our community. And a few that we've been involved in, one was the bowling alley, and we call it the Family Entertainment Center. And you know, we had come before the city and asked for some tax relief on that project, and over a period of 10 years, we got some tax relief and some improvement money for that project. That particular, the Family Entertainment Center got the tax incentive that ratchets up over a period of 10 years. The concerns that I have with the Hutchinson Mall and the redevelopment plan, even though I think it's one of the best things that could happen to the city and the Hutchinson Mall, my concern is the property tax freeze that they're requesting on the TIF district. I don't believe that the rest of the area out there has a TIF district in place. I think that the group of investors out of Wichita have a CID in that location. Would I be right saying that?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I don't know is the property tax, and I should have done some homework on this, and I flat didn't, ran out of time. The property tax freeze that they're asking for right now, is there a value that they placed on the property tax freeze? Have they placed a value to that?
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
the-
two, is it 2.5?
2.5.
Yeah, 2.0
2.5.
over the life of the
Over the
TIF.
life of the-
Capped. But the current, I think, base assessed valuation is $600 and some thousand is what it's valued after tax purposes.
So we would freeze the property taxes at $600,000 for
That-
10 years. That's
no.
what they're asking for, is that right?
No, it wouldn't be that would be, we would freeze it at that's the assessed valuation as it relates today.
I believe it'd be closer
so
to 12
whatever-
and a half years.
I'm sorry?
I believe it'd be closer to 12 and a half years.
Yes, the
Not
way this
10.
is proposed is that they would get, they're capping the total dollars that would be captured under the property tax component, which I believe was 2.5 million. It could be 10 years, could be 12 years. A lot of that depends on how quickly that
I see.
property changes in value, and then therefore their tax liability
I
increases.
guess my concern with this is, we've been involved in a lot of real estate transactions here lately in Hutchinson. We like to think we're a fairly substantial investor here, and our goal is to see our community improve. But my concern is, I've bought a lot of land, and I've been involved with some investors that have bought a lot of land, and we don't have any tax relief, and we're competing for some of the same people that the mall's now gonna be competing with. Another example would be, we did the North Point Center. We bought that building for probably less than 200,000 back when we bought it. We invested well over $1 million in that project, and we've not asked for any kind of a tax relief on that. We're from Hutchinson. I was born and raised here. I plan on retiring here. I plan on continuing to invest in our community, but it makes it a real challenge when we have people come in from out of town with investors from around the country that come in and invest in our community, and they get tax benefits and tax relief. And the guys that sit here every day and work here in this community every day and compete for the same tenants. Now, when they have property taxes that, they may be able to offer to these national tenants at, $1 a square foot for property taxes. Property taxes next to Kohl's, because I've been working on projects up there, $6, $7 a square foot. That's the same, so I'm faced with some of the same things that they are. So just be careful when giving that money to people, because it's really, my concern is we've got other people with an unfair advantage over some small local people here that continue to be here. And I'll be happy to answer any questions for you all, but, we'll continue to be here, and we would really appreciate your support. And we're happy to see the CID and possibly a little bit of the TIF district if they can make some improvements. I'm worried about the property tax issue for us. And if we continue to give people property tax breaks, we'll never get our property taxes down. We need that property tax, and we need it in Hutchinson and the county. Any questions for me?
Strawn, I really appreciate your perspective on this, especially as someone who's invested so much in our community. I was under the impression, this was before I was on council, that there was some type of, it wasn't a TIF, but for Kohl's, was it a sales tax rebate to get that?
If it's it's a neighborhood revitalization tax credit south of 11th Street, and this project happens to be north of 11th Street.
But I thought Kohl's was on
No,
17th.
Kohl's, and Jim, you were a part of that. that
Exactly. We
development.
were a part of the Kohl's, and one of the
they-
things
they-
that happened once Kohl's got opened up, I think it frustrated the people at Dillard's, and that's when Dillard's left. And the mall also didn't help with that, but I think that Dillard's got pretty upset about that, and they left town.
But didn't you receive a tax incentive
I
when you did the
didn't.
Kohl's program?
They got some kind of a sales tax, but that was totally done. All I did was sell the land to Kohl's,
But-
Continental
but
Properties,
Oh, okay.
actually.
But the incentive for that whole project was important for that to happen. Otherwise, he may not have
Yeah,
sold the
I'm not
property, but it was
questioning
the
that,
property
yeah.
tax, and also a sales tax rebate. So I think that was about a $500,000 incentive over a period of time. So that was the first time really that we ventured into retail incentive, and that's something that's, difficult at times, but sometimes necessary.
And I wasn't involved in that. Like I said, I had the land, and I believe that their purchase of that was contingent upon that passing, where
Correct.
the investors are now here. We have the investors in the Hutchinson Mall. In my mind, I think the investors are just trying to put more money in their pocket, which I would be too. I'm glad they're here. I think it's great for the community. It's the next step. It's what needs to happen. But
Well, and I think we've all struggled with those same arguments, especially since this is one of the few areas of development that still falls in USD 308, and we do need that increased valuation in that area. But when you're looking at an 18 million plus investment, it almost seems like you have to have something really substantial in order to get that done.
but they have invested. It's not like this is contingent. Their plan is not contingent upon getting the tax relief. So I think the CID, I think there's some other things that you can do. I just don't agree with the property tax freeze. Just because I think we need the property tax dollars. And Hutchinson, we'll never, you know, we're faced with some extremely high property tax values now anyway.
And again, would this be establishing the TIF today?
No, this starts the process. The
We need the
actual-
redevelopment different for, district for the SID as well, right, the CID? Okay.
Jim, you know, part of the discussion on this is knowing the existing conditions of the mall. And knowing that if something like Andy and his group would not come forward, that the tax base is going to ultimately erode. And we're going to lose that tax base that we already have. And I think what we're trying to do is to stabilize that and for one purpose, recapture that investment, upgrade it, build that sales tax base, so we're not experiencing that that leakage to surrounding communities. Because I think we have clearly lost some of our retail base here. I don't think there's any doubt about that because of the condition of the mall. And so I think we're trying to stabilize it without eroding the tax base, because if we do nothing, that tax base at the mall is going to erode.
Well,
That's kind of my perspective.
I can tell you that right now, we made an offer on a rundown restaurant on 17th Street, which is one of the last parcels out on 17th Street, for over $600,000 and got beat. So 17th Street's about full. These national retailers that are going to want to be in Hutchinson are going to want to be in Hutchinson, just like Kohl's. They don't need that tax incentive to come here. They have investors for the Hutchinson Mall, just like I am an investor in Hutchinson. Let them be investors in Hutchinson. And they got a great deal on the property, and it needs to be done. It does. And I
glad you
really do
feel that
support
way.
it.
Good.
But I think that it's really a double-edged sword. We're running out of good commercial real estate. I've been here before to get land rezoned for office space for different things. If we have a couple of major tenants want to come to Hutchinson, where do you think they'll go? It's pretty obvious. They're going to go to the mall because there's not much left for space for lease in Hutchinson, because 17th Street is the corridor right now for shopping, and there's nothing left to build on. I have a little bit of land left to Kohl's, next to Kohl's, about 3 acres. Just wanted to give you a different perspective.
Well, Jim, we hear that perspective all the time. That's why being on city council's a tough job some days. We want to protect our local businesses. We also want to basically improve our infrastructure.
I agree.
And whatever we decide, someone's going to be unhappy. I mean, at the end of the day, they were unhappy with Kohl's and what we did there. But we had people in our community that wanted Kohl's to come in, and there's a value in that. We have a huge voice to improve the mall, to get it out of what it's becoming, which is a blighted building. And I think our total investment's going to be $2.5 million with the tax relief. Is that about right?
With the sales tax on top of that, it's about a $5 million.
Right, so it's about a $5 million
Over a
project.
12-year period.
Right, over a 12-year period. And then Mr. Wiener's group is putting in close to $20 million. So we're basically giving him $5 million to receive an additional 15 from his group towards a property that is on its way to what the Wiley building was before we were able to resurrect it. And the Wiley building cost us a lot of dollars because we waited until it got to the point that it was pretty ridiculous. So, you know, we either jump on this project now, we move it ahead, and what I would also just say to you is, and we move hopefully to a lot of those smaller spaces, because, you know, everybody's talking about the anchor tenants. I'm more interested in all the little small ones that are going to be local family businesses that are going to be in our community that are going to have the opportunity to go to an affordable space. So that's an advantage too. We're never going to be right. We just have to pick the best deal we can for the project we've got. And I'm going to support this in the TIF district because this is the best deal we've got in front of us. And I would disagree with you, because I'll bet Mr. Wiener and his financial people sat down with a calculator and they looked at the TIF, the CID, what that brought to the table, what it would cost them, because they were looking at several other malls besides our property before they decided to come here.
I'm sure they have.
So, you know, I'm going to be wrong no matter what I do, but I think this is the best deal that we're going to get. And honestly, I will just say that I've had the opportunity to meet Andy just a couple of times, and I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
It's not that I'm against the project.
And we hear that very clearly.
I'm
You just think
all
that-
for it. I know that this is what the Hutchinson Mall needs.
Right.
I just think it gives them an unfair advantage in the competitive nature of the commercial real estate.
Right.
Any other questions?
Thanks,
Thank you
Jim.
for your time.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you. Thank you
Appreciate
for
the
sharing,
help.
Jim. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to comment? Yes, Jason.
Good morning. I'm Jason Ball, President of the Hutchinson and Reno County Chamber of Commerce. We've already had a lot of discussion on this, so I'll keep this very brief. But I would just like to, make a statement that our Public Policy Advisory Committee and our Chamber Board has reviewed the proposal on the establishment of a TIF and a CID district. Our organization and our leadership could not be more excited about the prospect of a reinvigorated, redeveloped mall. Throughout the Rockstep Capital due diligence process, I've had the privilege of talking with Andy about his plans a number of times. I share confidence in this group that they're going to be able to bring a much brighter future to this property, and our leadership sees that too. So we want to thank Rockstep Capital for the investment that they're making. I want to inject from an economic development perspective. The mall situation that we had was a drag on the economy in a couple different ways. Not only did we have the deeply held challenge of seeing an empty, underutilized property sitting there, but in a number of conversations I've had with other retail groups, it was also giving people pause about investing in other places in the city not related to the mall, because they were concerned about making that investment, and then what happens if the mall does become revitalized, and that's going to change that landscape. It was slowing things down in the retail sector in this community. Our board had a very robust discussion on this. We also took on issues related to CID, TIF, both CID, TIF. Ultimately, I think we recognize the due diligence process that the investment group is doing, that the city has done with them, and we want to see the action taking place that's going to bring a brighter future to this property. And so our position is in support of it. We are seeking some additional understanding, and I'm working with John Deardoff on that as to some of the thought process about establishing both a TIF district and a CID district. We want to understand that portion of it better, but we are very excited about the prospect of what Rockstep Capital is talking about doing here.
Any questions for Jason?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Do we have anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council on this issue? Seeing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I would so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. And we've got the consent agenda in between.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7A, consider ordinance establishing the mall redevelopment district.
Mayor and council, what this ordinance does, it does formally establish the the redevelopment district, and as a part of this process, the council must find a couple of things. First of all, that the district is in an eligible area, and secondly, that this project will be necessary to promote the general and economic welfare of the city. First of all, the proposed district is in an eligible area, and I think based on previous comments, I think we can make a pretty good case that it's necessary for the general improvement and economic welfare of our city. So again, this ordinance formally establishes the redevelopment district, and staff would recommend approval as presented. And certainly if you've got any questions about the specific ordinance that establishes the district, I can try to answer those, or Cord Maxwell can help with that as well.
John,
I'll-
on,
Go ahead.
on the CID, that cap, that 2.75, if that is reached early, obviously it wouldn't go for the full 22 years, or is that on the TIF?
The cap that you referred to is not on the CID. That's
Okay,
a
so
separate.
there is no cap.
Right.
And so we would be establishing that for 22 years. And can you remind me what the CID is on the Hobby Lobby property and Orscheln and,
Yeah, you know, I think we've got, I gotta think back, we've got 3 CIDs established. The Hobby Lobby and,
hotels?
Horselands was the first one. And I believe that was for the full 22-year period.
Okay.
We did a couple others in the 12-year, that was on the hotel project, was a 12-year project. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the specifics of each one of those.
I
but
just
the
wanted to make
22
sure it
years
was
is-
consistent with what we've done with others,
Yeah,
because I
and-
really do understand Jim's concerns about the fairness
Yeah.
issue, and I know we've discussed that in several
Yeah, and
sessions.
you know, and the CID is, in a way, kind of a self-imposed
Exactly.
tax. I mean, it's something that the owner
It's a choice.
requests, and it's a choice. And so, a little bit different maybe than the TIF and some of the other things we're
I
talking
agree.
about.
While you're on the CID, revisit with us what the council previously did in adopting CIDs in terms of signage and notifying the consumer.
Yeah, we do have
What is required.
a new requirement in our CID policy that does require each business within that district to post a sign of certain size and fonts that says that this project or this business is a part of a redevelopment district in general terms. Is the notification that there's an additional sales tax being collected.
Okay.
You know, and while it sounds good in theory, I'm not sure it brings a lot to the whole process, but it is a requirement. The city of Wichita went through that in some of theirs years ago, and so we incorporated that into our new policy. The current CIDs in place do not have that signage requirement because the requirement came after we had already set those up. And if you recall, I think we're nearly through the completion of the last CID, and we chose not to implement it at that point, but any CIDs future would have that requirement.
Very
So,
good.
so it is in our policy now.
It is in the policy.
Right.
Very good. Thank you.
But the ordinance we're establishing today doesn't have anything to do with the CID or the TIF, correct?
The ordinance that we're talking about now has nothing to do with the CID. It has everything to do with the TIF.
Well,
Yeah,
by creating it, that enables us to then look at the TIF,
right.
but it does not
Right.
approve the TIF.
That's exactly right.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion, we establish an ordinance, I'd like to approve the ordinance establishing the mall redevelopment district as presented by staff.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion by council? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this again at this point? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Pruitt.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7B, consider resolution approving a memorandum of understanding regarding a development project.
And Mayor and Council, this may get into a little more of some of the questions you've been asking, but what this does, the memorandum of understanding, is really intended to just state the mutual understandings of both parties with respect to facilitating this project and, you know, considering the specific public assistance component of this discussion. As you saw in the memorandum of understanding, the developer estimates that they'll invest about $18.4 million in this project. And the potential sources of public assistance in this memorandum of understanding involves the approval of tax increment financing to capture the real estate property taxes that we talked about already, capped at $2.5 million, and then the capture of additional sales tax, again with a cap at $2,750,000. And you know, a lot of times TIFs are set up for a specific period of time, and Corb can speak to this. In this case, it's essentially capping the dollars that would be generated. So it could be 10 years, could be 12 years, could be 13 years, depending upon how the project develops. And then the third component of the memorandum of understanding is the creation of the Community Improvement District, which is proposed at 22 years, which is a maximum allowed by law. So with that, we can have some discussions. Staff would recommend approval of the resolution that would approve the memorandum of understanding, and we would stand for any questions you might have.
Could you, since we're getting into this, could you talk a little bit about the process? So when Mr. Wiener's group brings in, let's just say $100,000 in these tax dollars, what do those $100,000 go for? And how does staff verify what they're used for?
Corby, you might address the legal process and what, I would defer that question, but he can probably answer it better than I.
Thank you, Councilman. Great question. The process that we just underwent was the creation of the TIF district. The next piece will be us writing and presenting to the city the redevelopment plan, and hopefully the approval of that redevelopment plan in March. Also the approval of the CID petition. But let's say all of that goes well and that is approved. We would also at that same hearing or shortly thereafter, what that's done is create the economic development tools, but it is not in any form allowed the developer access to those dollars. Those are still all city dollars at that point. The way that the developer is able to access those dollars is through a development agreement, the redevelopment contract that we sign between the city and the developer. Those documents are usually 50 to 75 to 100 pages, depending on the number of exhibits that we have on it. But the process in general that it would set out is Andy will go and make expenditures at the mall. He will make site improvements, he'll make roof improvements, he'll make tenant improvements, all of those things that we discussed in the early part of the process. He will then collect all of the invoices to those and bring those in to city staff for certification. The city staff will then have a time period to look through all of that and make sure those are all absolutely honest and significant expenses that went through third-party contracting and that were put out and that were real capital that was spent at the mall, all 100% financed by us. We're not asking for the city to use any of their credit or bonds or anything like that. Fully 100% financed by us and paid for by us. The process then to get where you were, Councilman Bush, is that at some point through either the community improvement district, through increased sales because we've brought in these new tenants, or increased property taxes because we've brought up the value, there will be money in the city accounts that has accrued through those increased taxes. That money can then be sent to the developer to pay off the invoices that were paid previously. We'll negotiate all of that, obviously, in good faith with you, the percentages and all of those components. The purpose of the MOU at this point, it doesn't have all of that extensive detail. It's also why it's not binding on either of us. It was more to have a sort of political understanding that we're all in this together and moving in good faith to work through all of those development agreement issues as the process rolls out. And we'll be intimately involved with your city attorney and John and everybody to negotiate those details of the development agreement. But generally, we certify the costs, and then it's paid back to us through those incremental revenues that come through over time.
And
So
it's
it's a
after city
reimbursement.
staff verify the billing.
Yeah,
what it's for.
absolutely. We provide full detail just for anybody that's pulled a loan from a bank. It's basically the exact same, that we bring in all of the same things we would bring for a construction loan at the bank: lien waivers, invoices, canceled checks, everything that goes through that shows these were cost. John and his staff is able to look at every one of those. They're able to ask us questions. They're able to ask for additional information, additional invoices, additional everything, so that the city and frankly your citizens are fully satisfied that what you voted for, the redevelopment of the mall, is occurring and capital and money is being put into that mall towards that redevelopment, and that we're all achieving results. And most importantly is, all of the risk is on our side of the equation. If that incremental revenue doesn't ever come, if it's not there, if something doesn't happen, the person that's responsible to that and responsible to the bank for that is Andy and his investment group, not the city of Hutchinson or the school district or the county or any others.
So there's no bonding component.
There is no bonding component, Councilman. We are asking, in our parlance, we call it pay as you go.
Pay as you go.
We are asking fully 100% for every component of this, both the CID, the TIF, the sales tax, all of that to be only pay as you go after we have spent the money and after your staff has been able to certify all of those costs.
Isn't that really important to us? That
Very,
this is a
yeah.
pay-as-you-go?
Yeah.
Because that's a
Mhm.
real.
Yeah.
There's no risk out
experience.
there,
Yeah, there's-
per se, and
That minimizes the risk,
We're-
correct?
We think it's the safest, I mean, I obviously represent the developer, but we think
Yeah.
it's the safest for the city, and your city staff was very clear to us at the outset that the only way the city of Hutchinson would look at an incentive like this was on a pay-as-you-go basis. And so we heard that message loud and clear and have built all of our financial pro formas around that model.
Will any of these tax deferred dollars, will any of them be used for personnel costs for Rockstep?
No, these are not, we are not requesting anything for operating costs in any form or fashion. We are requesting dollars to go directly into the property, capital costs to improve this property, make it better, and attract these tenants. This is not profits or administrative overhead for Andy or his staff.
And that's what everybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
Andy, a question to you. As you successfully negotiate with these tenants, what are your thoughts in terms of how you would want to communicate that to the community, the council, in terms of who these new tenants are going to be?
Great question. The answer is, as soon as I get permission
Yes.
from the tenant, and we're in negotiations already with many national tenants, many of them who you could probably guess. If the word got out that I was negotiating with Neiman Marcus, okay, they would be pissed.
Oh.
Okay, they would be pissed. Neiman's is not quite coming, okay? I don't think I'm going to be able to get Neiman's. But the answer is, I think we have a very good relationship with the media outlets here. And as a courtesy, we will let them know when we have permission, we actually have to have an email or a legal agreement in writing that we can say something.
Okay.
It's very touchy. I mean, very touchy. Did I answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Any other
Nice try,
questions?
John.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, I just, Andy, you've been through a lot of this with different communities, so you're used to all these questions.
Sure.
Just after hearing the council talk and the tone of the conversation, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Two things. One is we are not here to take advantage of city generosity. This is wildly needed, and even with this, it is not easy. It's just the way it is. It is not an easy task. We will be successful. I am convinced we're going to be successful. Going back to a comment you made, Councilman Bush, earlier, this is a low-rent world. That is the world we live in. And we are not proud that we only have to have the Neimans of the world and only targeting the Neimans of the world. We are here not only for national and regional tenants, but really for local tenants to come back into this property to provide that nice mix, a community mix of national, regional, and local tenants. And we will incentivize them. That's what it takes in today's world. You have to be very aggressive. Deals are hard, and competing against other communities is a very, very hard project. It is doable. We understand the game, and I'm convinced we're going to be successful.
I've got one other question, perhaps of Paul and Corb, on the MOU document itself. Unless I missed something, I did not see an expiration date. Should there, or is the thinking that we don't necessarily need an expiration date on the MOU?
Let me try, Paul, and then you can respond. Usually a very critical component out there to have an expiration date on it. Because this is truly non-binding and there is no commitment truly through it, no legal commitment, I think it is a political statement of the council and a statement from Andy of what he's going to do in writing to you. I don't believe it needs a date on the end there, but if the council has any desire to make some kind of friendly amendment for a 6-month period and we work that in, or you direct John to do that in your motion, we're more than happy to accept that. But I would say the reason we didn't put that originally was just because of the non-binding nature of it.
I mean, we would have no really need
No
for that.
real
I
need.
I would
Okay.
agree with that, unless you feel
I wasn't sure.
comfortable with that.
I had, oh, go ahead.
The only other thing, and I probably shouldn't just offer my own comments, but I would offer one other statement to make to Mr. Bush, your question, and that is, I think what all sort of inherently know, malls are different. Just end of the day, the mall is different. It is a central component of communities wherever they are, and they have different economics and different challenges behind them, and they are extremely different than either raw pieces of land or other strip centers out there. And to keep them healthy and vital, this is what is going on all throughout the nation. This isn't an individual thing that's just happening in Hutch. This is what is happening all throughout the nation as communities continue to want to reinvest and hold on to their malls. So sorry for offering my own opinion on that, but I've seen that through doing this in many, many, many communities, that the way to have a healthy and revitalized mall is this. And I don't think any of us want this to be the game or wish that this was the world we live in, but it's simply the reality that malls are different, and the way to keep them healthy is, as I said in our work session before, there's only two people that care about this: the person who owns it and the city themselves. And that's the only way we can get it done. So thank you. Sorry for taking that moment to offer an opinion.
John, I had one question. We've dealt with a few TIFs in the past, so I feel fairly familiar with them. But those were all dealing with incremental property tax capture. And this would actually be both incremental property tax and incremental sales tax. Have we waded into that type of TIF before? I guess, have we done it?
We have not, and
The
really
malls
the
are
only.
different. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
the only
comment.
tip that the city's ever really had was on the Fourth and Carry contamination project, and that was totally property tax, simply due to the area. I mean, it wasn't a retail area, so this would be our first TIF that would involve the sales tax component.
But what we did with Kohl's did have a sales tax rebate
Well,
component similar to a TIF.
Actually, what's interesting about the Kohl's, and it's been a while, but that project, we actually started down the road of exactly what we're doing here today with the Kohl's project. Unfortunately, it wasn't an eligible project due to its location. It wasn't eligible for a TIF. And I mean, we were well down the road and got into discussion, well, you can declare it a blighted area, which is what Salina had with their Kohl's, and be pretty hard to determine that area is blighted. So instead of the formal TIF, because we didn't do that, we kind of restructured and created an incentive package that somewhat followed it, but wasn't a legal TIF. And it was a property tax rebate and a sales tax rebate.
Okay, and thank you for clarifying that. Could you remind me the eligibility requirements that the mall met? Was it the percentage of tenancy and the fact that it's functionally obsolete because it's an enclosed mall? I didn't.
The eligibility issue that the mall met, and Corb knows the law, was because it was designated a enterprise zone.
That's right.
Back in
Okay.
1989.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That was the only qualifying.
Councilwoman, I think I may have mentioned this in the work session a few weeks ago. We have every confidence that if you had an appraiser review it, they could call it blighted. I've done this several times just because of, as I said, in the what has happened with retailing and economic obsolescence, the fact of enclosed malls, that they are very often easy to find blighted. We did not need to go through any of that process because this was designated by many councils before you and the state of Kansas a pre-1991 enterprise zone, which is also one of the qualifications that allows tax increment financing to be approved. And the mall was put in that, again, many, many councils before this one.
Thank you.
You know, we're talking quite a bit about, why should we do this and what's the value, and is it going to be, potentially better for our community? I was just thinking, I see Jim Seitner over there. Jim, do you want to stand up here and talk about the dollars that have been spent on the downtown redevelopment and the positive impact it's had on that retail community? And I didn't brief Jim in advance, so he's not prepared, but, city council, I guess you get to do that. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, because I think that's what we're talking about, making a significant investment in the mall so that the retail will grow. And I think we've actually seen that happen in the downtown. Jim?
Yeah, I think it's ultimately important that to recapture the sales tax dollars that we lose because of the retail, that's getting away from us. We try hard with our downtown shops, and we have a great group of local people putting out good products and great stores. But the bottom line is, national retailers look for properties like the mall-type properties. All the money that's been spent in downtown, and we see the value of old places becoming new again and getting better and higher quality uses. To me, that's kind of the comparison here is what's been stated is what we see now will look entirely different in 3 to 4 years, and add that piece of vitality back to the community, plus the economic draw of pulling people back to Hutchinson as a regional shopping center, which will also help downtown because we'll be able to offer kind of the best of both worlds that way, the unique niche shopping and those types of things, great restaurants and fun things to do. But I think, as much as you would hope that, and much as I hoped early on in my career, one of my opening statements was we'd recapture all of that business downtown. But the reality of it is it takes a mix of national companies, local companies, and regional impact. And the regional impact will eventually help everybody and will help the city because we'll recapture those sales tax dollars that get spent elsewhere.
So Jim, about how many dollars have we spent on the downtown? I mean, we're in our third or fourth phase.
About $6 million in partnership with KDOT and other folks, and fixing not only the streetscape elements to the downtown, but our beautiful parks and things like that.
So we spent about $6 million in downtown?
Yes.
Okay.
Plus the 2.5 for the parking garage.
Well,
For the
yeah,
lot, yeah.
that's prior to.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
But you're right. But
Yeah.
you're right. That's part and parcel of the dollars we've spent, redeveloping the downtown. So since you're the spokesperson for the downtown, why would you support them all?
Well, that puts me in a unique position because,
Jim, you're paid by the city, hired by the city, so I think you can say what you think.
well, honestly, I have one foot in both worlds. And, my heart would say if it hurts one of our local downtown businesses, that's not a good thing. But the reality of time and how things cycle and change, if you don't grow and you don't stay competitive, you go backwards. And as a lifelong resident of the community, there's just things you have to do. Look at the football stadium. You could play football at the old Gowan Stadium and play a football game, but it's not near the experience that you get now in a place that others want to come to play their games. So, you have to put what's the best for everyone versus what you really in your heart might want to see happen. Would have loved to seen the Wiley building full of a department store, something like that. Odds are that's probably not there. Be a great tenant and there'll be a great use for the space. So that's it takes that combination of things. But from the city perspective and a downtown perspective, I think having a strong retail base, more people coming to town for many different reasons, that makes it better for downtown too, because they will have an opportunity to experience a really great Main Street and a really great downtown and a great mall in the future.
And I fully agree with Jim's premise about the fact that if you have a good mall, you have a good downtown. I have to confess, I went to Salina last Friday because I wanted to go to Dillard's, but I also shopped downtown. So the two blend together, I think, very, very well, and it's very important.
Well, I believe so too, and with the hotel situation improving and getting better, the opportunity for heritage tourism is huge in our community, I believe. Be a great place for people to come, stay, locate out of Hutchinson and visit a lot of South Central Kansas and be able to experience a lot of things. And I think that's an important piece that will help our economy over time. So no one wants to spend more in taxes and no one wants to do this and do that, but it's an investment. You have to make investments, and sometimes they're a little bit painful to start with, but the result of it pays off. And I think you guys are doing the right thing. You're asking lots of questions, and thanks so much for giving me that opportunity.
Thanks, Jim.
Double-
I
double-edged
apologize for
sword.
calling you out of the crowd, but I just saw you and I thought it was important to hear what your thoughts were.
Okay.
Well, and I think what Bob's trying to highlight on, once we spend the money, sometimes we quickly forget, but that there has been a large investment in the downtown area as well, that we are willing to
Right.
put
Work
monies
with both.
where we think we can get some impact. And so,
Well, you ultimately have to reuse and adaptively reuse space that was created 30 years ago for a purpose, but that purpose has changed over time, and I think that's exactly, the direction that you're trying to do, is repurpose space for an ultimate better use.
Thanks, Jim.
thanks, Jim.
I sense, I
wants
look
to
back
say
over
something.
the early 1980s when this community was really divided. And there was a clear split within the community, the business community and the general public, because it was kind of an either-or situation. It was the focus on downtown versus the mall. And this council was faced with a lot of controversy in terms of when that mall was developed. But boy, I think we have come a long, long ways in the past 30 years that we have redeveloped our downtown. People took an ownership in the downtown. And I really sense that from Andy's development plan, that the community of Hutchinson wants to redevelop that mall to make it an integral part of this community and to rebuild our retail base. So I think we're headed in the right direction.
Thanks, Jim.
Andy, did you have
Yeah,
a
can I just
comment?
add a comment on this, about downtown? Our perspective, I think, is very, very consistent. We believe that quality of life is having a great downtown. We don't invest in markets that don't have quality downtowns. And our retailers, when they come visit, if they don't see a quality downtown, the probability of them committing to wherever they want to commit in that market goes down dramatically. We've seen this time and time again. So we're believers in quality downtown. We believe that a quality of a life for a community like Hutchinson is to have a vibrant downtown plus a combination of the national retailers and restaurants that often won't locate downtown. So you have to have a place for them, plus you have to have a quality downtown. You have to have both. And this community is on the right path to getting both of them done.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to address council on this? Is council ready to make a motion?
I would move to approve a memorandum of understanding regarding a redevelopment, a development project within the city of Hutchinson, Kansas, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush,
Yes.
Soldner,
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho,
Yes.
Dave Line,
Yes.
Prowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Cindy, how about a break?
How about a break? Yeah.
Boy, you guys. I guess it's a mandate for a break.
Yeah.
Shall we take 5 minutes, 10 minutes? What do you need? 5 minutes. We'll take whatever it's in for Jake.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you're looking at me, Jade's the one over there jumping up.
We've lost our city manager.
We don't need them.
We could
All
do all
right.
kinds of damage without him.
Yeah.
If the clerk would call the next item, please.
Item 7C, consider sports arena sales tax proposition.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. Council, at the last meeting, you reviewed a possible sports arena proposal and directed city staff to prepare an ordinance so that the sales tax proposal component could be placed for a public vote. You have that proposed ordinance before you. It establishes the rate, which is 35/100ths of 1%. It establishes the length of time, which is 10 years. It establishes the purpose, which is for renovating, expanding, and maintaining the sports arena. It establishes the sample ballot, which is at section 3 of that ordinance. If you approve this ordinance, it will be provided to the Reno County Clerk to be placed on the ballot for April 7, 2015. If it is approved by the public vote, then there is a further ordinance submitted to the City Council to provide for the levy of such tax. The tax is proposed to take effect July 1, 2015, if proposed. We've been in communication with the Kansas Department of Revenue, and they tell us they can do that. I can tell you that their actual regulation says the levying ordinance has to be provided to them 90 days in advance of that. So that's why it reads July 1 or the earliest date thereafter that the Kansas Department of Revenue can collect such tax. Questions from the council?
John, can you talk to us a little bit about the increase in projected utility costs?
I'd be happy to. That's been a question that's come up during these last several weeks, and certainly it was difficult to come up with that. And we asked our architectural team, Schaefer Johnson Cox Fry, to put together some projected utility cost, and based on the 180,000 square foot, the additional square footage of the building, air conditioning of the facility, and obviously more usage on a year-round basis, those utility costs are significantly increased to the tune of probably about just under $400,000 a year, compared to now of about 80 to 90,000.
And
But-
can you remind me the amount of dollars captured by 1 mil? Is that around 140,000? I can't remember. that figure.
290.
Oh, 290. I was way off. So this would be just over a mil increase.
And just remind you that the utility costs under the current arrangement with HCC is split between the city and HCC, both taxing entities, but they would pay half, we would pay half. And also on that, they're obviously with increased usage and size, HCC as the operating would probably add additional personnel, custodial work, so there'll be, and as we went into this, never thought that there would not be some additional operating costs that would be handled both by the city and the college through their annual budget.
But you would hope that by extending the life usability of the building, that you would generate more revenue, which would help offset
That's
some of this.
That's a good point, because the revenue we generate at the sports arena today is very, very,
Is very small, yeah.
And so the idea would be that there'd be additional revenue to, offset, a portion of those increase in operating cost. And, I don't know specifically how these numbers came about. I'm assuming they used a number of days and the size of the building, and a lot of that depends on how often we use the building, and can we create the system to where it be zoned off to where, if the bowl isn't being used today or this week, then certainly we don't have the air conditioner running there. So I think there's some ways some efficiencies that we can look at there, but I think it was important to at least have a number to talk about. And so, although I don't think too many people would have thought that those costs wouldn't have went up when you add air conditioning to that size of a building.
Substantial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we have any further questions?
No, we don't have any kind of, it's so difficult to estimate an increase on the revenue side, really, so we don't have any figures
I
to
would-
offset
No,
those two.
Would
Okay.
hesitate to even,
Okay.
bet on
know
that.
But I would expect those to be very minimal. I mean, you're gonna
I
have.
would too.
You're gonna have a wrestling tournament. You know, in the winter, you're gonna have some more basketball camps in the summer. You're gonna have, maybe the Y uses it a little bit more. I mean, it's not like you're going to bring in a significantly large for-profit, or profitable, I should say, profitable tournament. I mean, we're hoping to capture AAA high school, you know, championships in 1A and 2A in order to bring more people into town for economic development revenue, more than we're going to be able to really charge people to use the court. I mean, there'll be some of that, but there won't be.
Well, and
a lot.
ideally, it is a true community asset, and so I'm not saying that
Right.
we need to expect a large increase in revenue from it,
Right.
because if we're using it the way I think it's being sold as a community asset, I wouldn't want to see a lot of people charged for that, but, boy, that's far greater than I would have estimated. And I don't know if Leanne would want to speak to, now I'm doing what Bob does, would want to speak to any of the. I'm sorry.
Your due diligence by asking
Yeah.
questions?
No, putting people on the spot. I don't know if you would want to speak to some of the additional tournaments that we might be able to capture should this be done. I know we've discussed this before, but we've never discussed the increase in utility costs. And
From here on out, just be fair warned that if they're in the audience.
the audience.
no one's going to come to a
They get
meeting
called
ever
on.
May be
again.
called upon.
Should have stayed in the hallway. I certainly can't stand up here and project to anybody with any amount of certainty that, you know, we're gonna bring in X amount of events if the upgrades are made. I can stand here though and tell you that we are unable to bring in anything right now in its current state. So, I mean, that's the important, point I would like to make. This certainly gives us an asset that we can go out and market, and, the numbers of events that are out there that are actively looking for a community and a venue is tremendous. We go to a national sporting event conference every year, and it's amazing what's out there. And not just the traditional types of events that probably a lot of people are considering this renovation for, you know, like basketball. Of course, there's basketball tournaments, but the gamut of events that are out there, like I said, is just phenomenal. So we would do our best, make our best effort to go out there and actively market the sports arena to those types of events so that we can bring in additional revenue for the city.
Thank
I
you.
don't know if that answered your question.
Thank you. Do we have other people in the audience that would like to address the council on this issue? Please state your name.
And the address.
Address.
And if you are a citizen of Hutchinson.
Yes.
And your age.
Mayor and City Council, I'm Ron Sellers at 3400 Thunderbird Drive, which is in the city. First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the council for their time and effort that they put in on the council. And just sitting here for an hour and a half this morning, watching you, it is obvious how difficult your decisions are. You can't always make everybody happy in the community, but we do have some really exciting things going on. I was part of the council when the Wiley building got started to be turned around, and I'm so excited to see it filling up today. I'm so excited to see the mall being redeveloped. We really have got some exciting things happening in Hutchinson. Andy Weiner and his group looks like that they might be presenting us with some really future things to look forward to. I'm here representing Hutch Wins, a committee that is in its formation stage that will provide facts to the citizens if you decide to put the funding question on the April ballot, and we hope that you will. More than that, I am representing the initial committee that you, the council, appointed as an independent group of community members to look to see what is best for the arena's future. Other committee members that are here today are Leanne Cox, Russ Reinert, Gary Holler with the architectural firm. Am I missing anybody that I didn't see? And also, we have a committee member that was not mentioned in previous information that you received is Richard Gray, and I did want to mention that Richard is part of our committee. We were overwhelmed when we realized that the existing issues of the sports arena exist but we are also overwhelmed by the future potential of the sports arena. We came back to you, the council, with our best approach to the future of not only the arena, but for a collaborative effort of the total good of the community. If you will allow and vote today to put this issue on the ballot, our committee will do the best to provide factual and complete information for an informed electorate. We can continue to see a Hutchinson community that is willing to listen to factual information such that they can make an informed vote in April. At the request to broaden our working group, at a committee meeting, we asked our committee members to send names of those that might want to join us and to help expand our efforts. The first committee member that responded with a list of 50 names of associates that he's been in contact which want to be part of our information project. Candidly, we would have to say that at this point we've seen significant interest in learning more about the project. At this point in time, I don't think we're asking people to vote yes. We're asking people to be open and listen to the facts concerning the project. We realize that we need to talk to all voters and answer as many questions as we can. We intend to do this in the next 2 months if today you give the voters the right to vote on this measure. I was intrigued by Pastor Peterson's prayer this morning. It takes great leadership, but it also takes a great community to make things for the future. And I think we all live in one, and I hope that we can make this project work. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to address council?
Jason Ball, President of the Hutchinson-Reno County Chamber of Commerce, and yes, I live in Hutchinson at 3 Pepperwood Lane.
I was really just giving Ron a hard time.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm here today to express the Chamber's support that the council do move this issue forward to an April ballot. We support putting this in the hands of the voters and letting this community determine the direction that this is going to take. Our organization, through our Public Policy Committee and our Board of Directors, has looked at the plan that's been proposed by the Sports Arena Committee and feel very strongly that this is an important step for our community to take in order to revitalize what's going on. I think Ron made the great point. This is an amazing time in Hutchinson. We are seeing economic growth. We have great opportunity with the mall. We have industrial growth happening. And this is another one of those community vibrancy issues that I think it's important for the community to jump on as we have this opportunity. I would like to point out it is, in our view, a much larger issue than the NJCAA tournament. They have been a great partner. We hope they will continue to be a great partner in this community. But our interest is seeing this become a true year-round multi-purpose facility. So we are enthusiastically in support of seeing this move forward, and I think this is the right time. This is the path that we need to take, and it will be a vote that is going to define this community for the next generation.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
And do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to address council on this issue? And I don't know if John, the letter that we received from the NJCAA, if that's something that...
If you want to just comment on that, I think that'd be appropriate today to do that. I think that was an important piece of, I don't know, what maybe got a little bit of this ball rolling.
Well,
so.
I may just read the letter that we have received from the executive director of the NJCAA. The NJCAA is proud of its longstanding relationship and partnership with the city of Hutchinson. It has been and always will be a special relationship, beginning in 1949, when the success of the NJCAA men's basketball championship surpassed expectations. That relationship continues today as the tournament has become a fixture in the Salt City. On behalf of the NJCAA Executive Committee, it is with great pleasure that I'm able to confirm unanimous approval of a 25-year contract for the NJCAA Division I Men's Basketball Championship, pending the approval of all proposed renovations to the Hutchinson Sports Arena. We look forward to continuing and improving this special relationship. So we are very pleased that while we are not looking at wanting to do improvements to the arena solely for the purpose of the tournament, that we are receiving a 25-year contract extension commitment from the tournament if these improvements do come forward, which I think goes a long ways in helping with some of those costs. If you kind of think about the impact that the tournament has on our community and kind of think of that helping to pay off some of the improvement cost. Would anyone else like to comment?
Madam Mayor, I just comment, just to follow up on that, and I know you were involved, and I think Bob, Councilman Bush, when he was mayor at the time, in conversations with the executive director, that not only is this a commitment, but there was also dialogue about what other potential NJCAA championships might be able to come to our community. Obviously, no commitment, but certainly I think the door is open for those opportunities as well if this moves forward.
Well, Cindy, I think you bring up a good point. I remember viewing conservative estimates of the economic impact of the tournament alone, just those 5 days, at being just over $1 million. So that 25-year contract is nothing to sneeze at,
Right.
even if we don't bring in additional things, which, of course, this is so much more, I would hope, than a 5-day or 6-day tournament. I think we're all excited about the potential that building brings, and I certainly am fully in favor of putting this to the voters, because I do think that it's the community's decision. When we received those figures late last night on the increased utility costs, I will say that I was a little shocked at that, though, and we're worried about how we're going to pull those type of operating increases out of our budget. But exciting project.
Well, I agree. I think it's something that we do need to put forth to the community for the vote, and give people in our community an opportunity to give us direction on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say that I think I've probably been the most skeptical of the bond issue as presented. I'm more of a, I guess, old school phased in kind of guy. Do a little bit at a time and pay it as you go. But I think I've become convinced over time and discussion that, we need to put this to the voters, but we also need to do everything we can within the letter of the law to ensure that it's passed, or to at least really promote our perspective. One of the biggest frustrations I've had has been Memorial Hall in the 8 years I've been here. And the reason why I'm frustrated with that is that the voters wanted to save Memorial Hall, but they didn't provide the funding to do anything with it. So it really is a very small, single-purpose facility. What I like about this is that even though we're talking about significant dollars, you're talking about a 20-year investment by the NJCAA. You're talking about additional courts. You're talking about ADA accessible. You're talking about huge improvements for the athletic department with HCC, for which they are going to provide up to $5 million in addition. Plus, they're going to pay for half of the heating and air, plus additional staff. So HCC is in this. We're going to get so much more out of this than what we currently have. And I think it's something that we need to do, because as you look at Memorial Hall, it's an underutilized, beautiful building, but underutilized because we didn't put the resources into it, and the planning wasn't there to make it a vibrant part of the community. What I like about this project, and I've slowly become convinced that this is something we need to do, is that it has multiple purposes for the next 25 to 50 years for our community, and we need to step up and get this done.
I think that's an excellent point, that comparison between Memorial Hall and this, and when people in the community have asked about phasing it in, I think that's exactly where you would be, is if you do a part of it, you'll have a nicer facility to some respect, but not, it won't expand its utilization.
Right.
And so I think that speaks to that very well.
This really has been a truly grassroots effort, and I've seen this evolve. I happen to be on the Sports Arena Advisory Committee representing the council. And from the first meeting, there were a lot of perceptions out there that, yes, we can do this in phases. We can do it for a significantly less than what we're talking about today, but that committee itself really evolved into really understanding the true potential that we have out there, because it really is a palace. I think the sports arena is a palace, and when we saw the architectural renderings and we saw the north side and those improvements and the existing bowl and the challenges of the architectural firm in presenting a doable plan to us, it really has been a grassroots effort that I think will build some momentum in the next 60 days, that people factually will understand its need. And so I thank all the members of the committee and your great efforts, and certainly, Ron, your leadership in bringing it to this point. So good work.
You look at me like I have to look at it from, okay, I look at it from the, yeah, right, big dollars. I look at it from the same perspective that I looked at the school district bond issue several years ago. What you're doing is creating a facility that will be used for 50 years, not something that you're doing a quick patch or a quick fix, whatever you want to look at it. So yes, I'm very supportive of putting this to the voters. So.
And is anyone supportive enough to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the ordinance as presented by staff regarding the Hutchinson Sports Arena sales tax proposition, and send it to the voters for consideration and hopefully approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Prowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7D, consider correction of subsection identification in Chapter 27 of the Hutchinson City Code.
Paul Brown, City Attorney. This is just a correction on a subsection to change it from E to F, and that's all we're asking you to do.
Make a motion, we approve the subsection identification corrections presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Why would you?
Yeah.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Prowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8A, consider operating agreement with the Hutchinson Recreation Commission for Fun Valley Hobart Debtor.
Good morning. I'm Justin Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. In July of 2014, we passed a short-term agreement with Hutchrec to operate Hobart Debtor, Fun Valley, and really all of our athletic facilities. So the agreement in front of you today is a 2-year agreement. It is modeled very similar to the agreement we have with Salt City Splash. All support employees, scorekeepers, umpires, those sorts of employees will become Hutchrec employees as opposed to city employees. Hutchrec will establish a fund just like they do with, or just like we have with Salt City Splash, so all revenues will be deposited into that fund, all expenses will be paid for that fund, and at the end of the year we'll make a subsidy to balance that fund out. We are anticipating a significant savings, primarily through using fewer people to operate the facility from a programming standpoint. We're anticipating a savings of a little over $240,000. That includes maintenance and operation of the athletic facilities. Really what we're doing is taking advantage of Hutchrec's expertise in programming and making that a little more streamlined. So I'm excited for that. We are. Hutchrec is budgeting that we will actually only subsidize them a little over $3,000 for the operation piece. I'm going to challenge Tony to hopefully reduce that to a zero subsidy. But we'll still have all the maintenance cost of repairing the fields and those sorts of things. So really the subsidy going forward, what we're budgeting is $290,000. And that's down from $532 in fiscal year 14. So it's a 2-year agreement. I did that intentionally. I didn't want a real long-term agreement to start with. I wanted to give us the opportunity to get through a couple seasons and adjust it if needed. In 2014, we had, I think, 11 tournaments at Fun Valley, and actually throughout the city. Hutchinson has already scheduled 27. So they're being aggressive with getting much more use out of the facility. And combine that with the capital improvements we plan on making in 15, I think we're going to have some really positive things happening at Fun Valley. So with that, I will stand for any questions. It is my recommendation to approve this agreement, and we do have the blessing of Hutchinson. I've worked with Tony very closely in forming this agreement, and so if there's any
I've
questions.
been really impressed with the energy and ideas that the Hutchinson has injected into those facilities. So very, very impressed with that reduction in subsidy too.
Yeah.
That's,
I am really impressed. I can't remember a time.
that'll pay for
Ever.
the sports arena AC.
They'll pay the utility costs, right?
Yeah.
I think it does just get to show sometimes how short-sighted we become when we do everything ourselves. And,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of experts in the community, and Tony and his team are experts in this area, and I'm glad the city's going to rely on them to do their job best while we take care of the fields and the maintenance.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
mean-
that's what the city's good at, the maintenance piece, and they're good at programming. So
Absolutely.
no reason to duplicate it. So.
I agree.
I would
100%.
move to approve the operating agreement with the Hutchinson for the operation of Fun Valley, Hobart, Detter, and other athletic facilities.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, if I could just break a minute. Tony, since you're in the audience and we've been calling people in the audience, could we perhaps have you spend just a couple minutes and give us a little insights in terms of what your current plans are in terms of marketing Fun Valley and Hobart Detter and bringing new events here?
I noticed everyone else starting to get a little sweat.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of staff didn't come back after
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. Our approach was to identify a national sports association that would help us bring in tournaments. If you're not familiar with youth sports nowadays, it's all about the big tournaments, getting to the state championship, getting to regionals, getting to national. We all see the Little League on TV, with ESPN and so forth. So Fun Valley's had a long history with USSSA. I don't know if you've familiar with that back when it started. We looked at them, we looked at ASA, we looked at Little League, we looked at all those organizations. We felt that UTRIP was our best one. So that's who we affiliated with. And went to a national meeting, got support. That meeting turned into those 27 UTRIP qualifying tournaments. Just in the baseball area, they're all state qualifiers. One is a national or what they call a global qualifier. So we're hoping that turns into like a 40 to 50 team tournament. On the adult slow pitch, while adult slow pitch is kind of moving away, we were able to land a conference championship, state C and D tournament, and a church state tournament. So 3 state and regional tournaments in the adult slow pitch, in addition to what we're doing with the youth baseball. And then in adult or fast pitch softball, we have some showcase tournaments that we believe are going to be very popular in that sense. So that association with UTRIP, just us promoting through our connections. I just had 3 emails while I was sitting here today of coaches wanting to sign up. So we're excited about that. We can't guarantee that every one of the 27 tournaments will make, but that's our goal, is to make sure each one of those happen.
That's great.
Great work.
Yeah, wonderful.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything? Hearing nothing, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Prowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8B, consider request for conditional use permit for 318 North Pershing.
Good morning. I'm Casey Jones, Senior Planner with the City Planning Department. And just like to present to you a request we received from a property owner of the property at 318 North Pershing Street in Hutchinson. The owner is Herminio Acosta, and he's actually here in the audience in the back row, waiting patiently. But to focus your attention down to the details of one specific property, On the screen here is a picture of the property. It's a single-family home. And Mr. Acosta purchased the property and has been actively remodeling the property, invested a lot of money and time into it. His intent is to ultimately move into the house and live there, and not to use it as a rental, although that would perfectly be fine if he were to do that. The issue he came to us with is that it's zoned commercial, and I'll show you a map of the current zoning here. Basically, all the areas in red and pink on the map are commercial zoning districts. And you'll notice that on both sides of 4th Avenue, basically from Plum Street all the way down to Severance Street, on both sides, every property is zoned commercial. And there are a lot of houses in that area. Just in the picture you see here, there's probably 15 or 20 houses that are zoned commercial. That can present a problem for those property owners who own the homes if they want to sell the property, or if they want to try to obtain financing, a mortgage, or even obtain insurance on the property. That can become an issue because of the non-conforming status. Financial institutions sometimes will hesitate to lend money on a property that cannot legally be rebuilt. So Mr. Acosta has requested a conditional use permit, which will basically, if approved, allow him to continue using the house as is, and would allow the house to be rebuilt if it were damaged by fire or some other kind of disaster. The Planning Commission held a hearing on January 6th, and they recommended approval by a unanimous vote of 8-0. And they recommended that 2 conditions be placed on the permit. The first one says that the permit shall only be used for a single-family dwelling. And the second one says that in the event of damage to more than 50% of the dwelling, the home may be rebuilt in the same footprint as it currently sits. We did notify the surrounding property owners. The area on the map outlined with the red dotted line is the radius, the 200-foot radius that we had to notify. And there were about 18 properties that of the owners that we notified, and we received 1 comment back in favor, and no other comments came in. But in my time working here, I think we've had probably 1 or 2 other conditional use permits in this block for houses in the same situation that were approved by the council. So,
Casey, is this really a situation where we should be looking at adjusting the zoning of that whole area?
well, that's something we could consider. When you look at those properties, just take a look at this property we're talking about. There really is an adequate space to reuse that property as a commercial building. There's not adequate room for parking, and it would present quite a few challenges to convert that into a commercial use. And I don't know how long the area has been zoned that way, but I imagine for quite some time. But it would take probably a developer to come in and buy up multiple properties, consolidate them, and to make it buildable.
The reality is 4th Street is not a high development area at this point in time, and residential may be where that stays.
That's true, but at the same time, when you have a house in a commercial zone, if you get a conditional use permit, you kind of have the best of both worlds, because it gives you the option of rebuilding as a house, and the option is still there to potentially sell it to someone who wants to develop a commercial use. So,
Just curious.
So just keep approving them.
Yeah, I guess. I guess we'll just keep bringing them back in.
Well, Casey, I've been by this home, and it does look really nice. And as you said, I think it's just kind of caught in that whenever a blanket zoning went in on that, because I don't see it as something that could develop as a commercial lot.
I don't either.
So, do we have any discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Just appreciation for the owner for investing in that property. Looks so much better.
Well, in that case, I'm going to move to accept the Planning Commission recommendation as presented for the conditional use permit for a residence at 318 North Pershing Street.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes.
Item 8C, consider request for a conditional use permit for a billboard at 2201 South Lorraine.
Good morning, City Council. Janet McCarran, Planning and Development Director, and the case before you is for a conditional use permit for an electronic billboard to be located at 2201 South Lorraine Street. The applicant is Steve Stanfill, who represents Art Studio Signs, and the property owner is Keith Bauer. And here's the subject property. A public hearing was held on January 6th, and you can see kind of the location of the sign there is in the southwest corner of the lot. At the public hearing, there were some property owners in the vicinity who came and spoke against, in opposition to having this sign be placed on this property. So I wanted to kind of show you a little bit better view, hopefully, of what it might look like for these property owners. The property in question you see here where I'm circling, that's where the sign would go. One of our stack, is that circle showing up there? No, you can't see anything.
I thought I just couldn't see it.
No?
I'm going. Wait a
Let me
minute.
try this. There we go.
There you go.
So that's the sign. And the property owners who came out and spoke in opposition to the sign were the property owner of property number 8 here and property number 4. So those are both residences. They're located in the county. It is zoned commercial, but it is county property. And they were concerned about the lights and the flashing from the sign. It would be an electronic billboard, so it will be, lit. Our staff did go out after the Planning Commission meeting to take a couple of photos so we could kind of get an idea, hopefully, of what this might look like for those property owners. So you can see this is the view from right here, which is in front of property number 4. And so that's looking towards where the sign will be. And you wouldn't really even be able to see the sign, we don't think, from that property. It would be hidden by that house. You might see a little bit of light, but we don't think from that property you would even be able to see the sign itself at all. And then from the other property, that's a little bit closer. It's about 680 feet from that property to the sign. And here would be the view. The sign would be located right there. I don't think that's exactly the correct scale, but they probably would be able to see the sign somewhat, especially if they came out to the street. It's questionable whether if they were in their house, they would be able to see it very well. The sign will not be oriented, obviously, towards them. It's going to be oriented towards the traveling public on Highway 50, because those are the people that the sign company is trying to advertise to. What the applicant is proposing is a 24 by 8, so 24 feet by 8 feet electronic message sign. It would be 27 feet above the ground level at the bottom, and then the top of the sign would be at 35 feet. Here's a view as it would look if you're traveling west on Highway 50. That's where the sign would be. And then I have a view as you're traveling east on Highway 50. Actually, this is not from the freeway. This is kind of like in the little right-of-way area between the freeway, and he probably didn't want to stop in the middle of the freeway and take a shot there. So billboards do require a conditional use permit in the C4 zone. The Planning Commission did consider this, and they recommended approval, but the vote was 6-2. There was some concern about the impact of the sign on the residents in that area. And they recommended approval with the following conditions. This conditional use permit shall only be used for one freestanding electronic message board sign not to exceed 192 square feet in area and 35 feet in height on the property located at 2201 South Lorraine Street. The sign shall be installed in accordance with the approved site plan, elevation renderings, and section 27804, general requirements for message signs, digital and electronic. A sign permit shall be obtained prior to installation. An electrical permit shall be obtained prior to installation. Approval from the Kansas Department of Transportation shall be obtained prior to installation. This is in the KDOT right-of-way area, so they would also have to approve the sign. And hours of operation will be from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily, and that was a condition that was added based upon the concerns of the residents. The applicant met with me earlier before this meeting and said that they were concerned about the last condition, the hours of operation. They would like to address you to kind of bring their case as to why they feel like that condition should be removed. And so if you don't have any other questions of me, I'd like to offer the opportunity for them to come up and speak to you.
Jana, one question regarding KDOT. As I read your materials and so on, we approve it here if we approve it, and then it goes to KDOT for further approval, or is it concurrently?
KDOT will not approve it if the city doesn't approve it.
KDOT will not approve it if the city does not approve it?
Correct.
Okay, fine, thank you.
But if we approve it, there's no guarantee that KDOT will approve it, right?
There's no guarantee they will. We kind of looked at their requirements. They're not as stringent as ours are. I don't think there's a reason why they wouldn't approve it.
Okay. The two the two committee members or planning commission members that didn't support this, what were their basic reasons, in your opinion, for why they chose not to support this?
They didn't actually state them, but there was a lot of discussion from the residents. My opinion is it's because this area doesn't have a whole lot of signage. It's kind of on the edge of the city, as you probably noticed. Well, I can kind of go back here and show you. The city limit line is right here. This green line. So it's actually, the sign would be right on the edge of the city. There's not a whole lot of lighting out there right now, and so I think probably the planning commissioners were concerned that this might add additional light pollution, if you will, or lighting that the residents there are not experiencing. It's tough to tell really how much light they will have until the sign actually gets up, unfortunately.
Does the sign run 24 hours a day?
They were, I think, are requesting 24 hours a day. At the public hearing, the sign representative said that typically they turn them off from midnight till 5. And so I think that's why the condition 11 to 5 felt reasonable. But the applicant did meet with me prior to this meeting and said they want to be able to run it 24 hours. So.
Jana, even though we require a conditional use permit, do we have a limit on the amount of these type of signs we could have in our city? Or can we have as many as we want if we want to issue a conditional use permit?
I believe there's a separation requirement for billboards. I'd have to look up specifically what that is, but there's not a billboard in this area right now, so it would meet that.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions?
4-lane highway, I think it's inevitable. You're going to see development out there, and you're going to see additional signage.
I think John's right. Anyone in the audience would like to address the council on this?
Yes, my name's Keith Bauer. I'm the owner there. 931 North Wheat State Road, Burton, Kansas, my home address.
Excuse me, would you mind putting on the map your address, your house?
He owns
Yeah,
the business.
Yeah, you said earlier, it said state your home address. There's my, that was my home address
Well,
there. But I own the property at 2201 South Lorraine.
Okay.
Which
one's that?
Basically number 12,
Go
12
up
and
and
11.
point at it, please.
Is number 12?
It'd be this right here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's the truck.
It's the truck.
All right, thank you.
So I understand their concerns, and a lot of the houses and the trees out there we think will distort most of the view. As far as the truck stop used to be there used to be trucks in and out. There used to be, they had lighted up billboards out there before when they opened that up there for the construction. So there's less traffic now that they would have to deal with, and I don't think the lights would be that much of a factor. We don't want that to be the deal killer. We want to have access to advertise 24 hours a day, because if you shut down 6 hours, that's 25% of potential revenue. If that's the only way that we can do it, I think that we would still do it. But we would like to have access to advertise 24 hours if at all possible.
I'm Steve Stanfield, Art Studio Signs. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for meeting with us. We just feel it's more of we're trying to meet all the requirements, not to offend anybody, to make sure it works properly in that area. And part of it's, Keith's done a great job about developing that property. It used to be the Big M, used to be a great property out there for years and years and years. And because of the highway development, they kind of carved it up, but he's done a great job about building buildings out. He's doubled employment out there. This is just part of his ongoing business development, and I think he's not asking for CIDs, TIFs, or anything like that.
Don't understand all that anyways.
Yeah, we don't even know what those are, so we're not asking for them. So,
but we originally bought this property for $55,000. It used to be, it actually was the old truck wash when when they tore down the Big M. This was the Norris truck wash, and since then you can see there we've expanded 4 times since then, and we've invested over $500,000 in the property. Not only that, I bought the 30 acres just to the east of there for future development. Don't know what I'm going to do with it yet there, but I did get that as well there. Maybe move my trucking company later and then have this property for something else. But in the meantime, it's just something to help bring attention to that corner, because there's nothing out there right now. There's Royer's Tree Service is across the street, and the truck wash is out there. But there's about 40 acres out there that there's nothing being done with, and just to bring some attention to the area. Thank you.
We're just asking that if you would be so kind as to approve that, to change that, if possible, that timing issue for us, or at least to consider that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Does your traffic warrant running it 24 hours a day?
At this point, we don't think that we do, but at the same time, we don't want to be handicapped by saying, if we have an advertiser that says, is it 24 hours, and you start saying no, you just don't want to tell the customer no. If that's what they want, that's what we want to be able to provide, whatever the customer wants.
And he has a trucking business too. The traffic that would be there is heavy trucks.
Yeah.
Just truck repair. I mean, it's just natural for his own advertisement too.
That I agree. Okay.
I did want to mention, I forgot to, that this would be both for on-premise and off-premise advertising. So he will be advertising his own business as well as any other kind of businesses that would want to advertise there.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments, or do we have a motion?
Well, I'd like to, I guess, support removing as one of the conditions from the Planning Commission, the elimination of hours so that they could operate 24 hours a day.
All right.
Was that a motion?
And do we have a full motion?
Yeah, let me put that in the form of a motion with the modification to the Planning Commission's recommendation to allow for 24-hour operation.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
I will reluctantly second that.
I think it just goes down as a second.
I know. I know. But
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Pruitt.
Yes.
Wow.
Next item, please.
Item 8D,
Ambivalent, but-
update on structures determined to be
Yeah, I really am,
unsafe and
but-
dangerous.
All right, Trent, you've got 5 minutes.
All right, we'll get this done. Good morning, council. Trent Maxwell, building official. I come back to you, and
I don't know, but I gotta be home by 1.
we've got some updates on our houses. I'm gonna try to make this as quick and painless as possible.
That would be great. I'm sorry, we'll,
Yeah, right.
Too late.
we'll
So-
pull together a little bit better for you.
Yeah.
That is all right. I'm going to skip just right to the motion. The motions will give you the background as I explained to them, and that will help lessen any confusion. So my first motion, and I gave you an individual handout because things were very fluid past couple days and changed. So the first motion is to approve or not approve the removal of 619 East Avenue D off the condemnation list. That is the couple that you extended time to rehabilitate the house. They are all but ready for a final inspection. So we are confident that they're painting now and they'll have light fixtures up probably within the next couple weeks. And we'll be able to close out their building permit. So we're confident that they've met your expectations as well as mine.
Yeah, we've done a lot of this work with
Yeah.
Trent over the past couple of months. I think he's clear on our expectations, and so I would make a motion to approve the removal of 619 East Avenue D per staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dayline.
Yes.
Prowett.
Yes.
Okay, the second one is, this is where everything changed and it kind of threw in more motions, but 716 West Avenue A is a gentleman that a few months ago pulled a demolition permit. His progress was very slow, showed up to a couple council meetings. Well, here recently he made some aggressive attempts and actions on the house in his own demolition and is probably 70% complete. And so my recommendation on that is to grant him 30-day extension so he can finish this on his own as he has requested to me. So the motion would be to approve or not approve a 30-day extension to the property 716 West Avenue A.
And is that the last one listed on the last action item?
Yeah.
So we would strike it from that.
Correct, and on the handout it is changed in that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because some of those
Yeah.
numbers,
Different
the,
order than the agenda.
Right.
the amounts have changed, the addresses have also changed, so,
That makes it easier.
sorry.
All right, I will move to approve a 30-day extension to 716 West Avenue A to allow the property owner to finish demolition.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Pyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dayline.
Yes.
Prowett.
Yes.
Okay, the third one, this is a gentleman that is here today, Tony Railsback. Last council meeting, you gave him an extension to get his financial amounts together, his contractors lined up to rehabilitate the house located at 601 North Monroe. In your handout was his first draft. He has actually tailored that and has even more specific numbers to it. He does have licensed contractors that he has hired to make these renovations upon your approval. So my request to that, or for him, is that he's given a 60-day extension to rehabilitate the structure. He does have a time frame that he has submitted to me today. He is estimating it's going to take a little bit longer than that. I put the 60 days kind of in past history of what you guys have been comfortable with to allow for rehabilitation.
What is his timeline that he's given to you?
The first one is
I mean, the most recent one.
correct. He's got it broken up and he's got handouts if you want it, but basically in 90 days, everything structurally will be done. As well as the electrical, the plumbing, and any heating repairs that might need to happen. The following is where it gets into the cosmetic. There's some window, exterior storm windows trim that needs to be painted and replaced. And he's got more on past that to do with more interior repairs, but the key for structural will be 90 days, and he does have a hired contractor ready to fix the foundation work, which is the biggest reason why we put it on the list.
Are you recommending 60 days to us or the 90?
Well, 60 days is probably the best, in my opinion, and I visited with Tony about it. It gives us a chance to come back, whether you want 90 or not. The last couple first request to you was a year. You gave her the initial 30 days, and then you extended 60 days. They didn't need the year. They were able to get it done. I think Tony, in a safe estimate, gave the 90 and 60 and so forth to finish this completely. He might find with weather and with the contractors that he's actually hired to get the work done that it will go quicker is my hope. So.
Okay.
So you're saying 60?
Mm-hmm.
60. Okay.
And you can change that if you wish. That is
Sure.
my recommendation.
Got it.
I would move to approve a 60-day extension to rehabilitate the structure at 601 North Monroe.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes.
The next motion is 401 East Avenue E is a gentleman, Harold Warner, I believe is his name, came in, wanted to explore either contracts with contractors to rehabilitate this house or to demolish it. He came back, and it's in your packet there. He has hired Mitzner Excavating to do the demolition of the house. My proposal or request would be to give him 30 days to have his own demolition contractor demolish the structure for them.
I'd make a motion to approve the 30-day extension for 401 East Avenue E as presented by staff.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes.
Okay, the next motion is where our bids came in at. We had Rick's Dozer Services that had some wonderful bids for us. And the next two motions are just to deal with the lowest bid and awarding those to the contractors. So the first one is Rick's Dozer Services in the amount of $19,100 for the following properties: 1027 East B, 321 East Avenue D, 712 South Maple, 717 North Monroe, that 17 North Nelson should not be there.
Okay.
Apologize. 628 North Plum, 545 East First, and 510 East Third.
That's 7 properties.
Yes, and we have on 3 that consented before we started our hearings. Rick's Dozer Services received 2 of those bids as well, so he has 9 total.
That's a good price.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 7 properties identified for demolition for $19,100 as presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes.
The last one is to award the bid to H Excavating in the amount of $1,500 for the demolition of 17 North Nelson. And this demolition contractor is new to the city. He's out of Belle Plaine. He also got the low bid on one of the other 3, so he is willing and wanting to come to town for the 2 homes. So
I would move to approve the bid award to H Excavating in the amount of $1,500 for the demolition of 17 North Nelson.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave Line.
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes.
thank
I
you
think
for
you
your
get the
time.
Golden Clock Award for
Yeah,
that.
I do too.
Well, I was afraid yesterday, so anyway,
This was really helpful. Your
Yeah,
little
Yes.
second page.
Yeah.
it was about my only option.
That's
so,
all right. Yeah, very helpful.
Thank you for
Thanks,
your time.
Trent.
Thank you, Trent.
Next item, please.
Item 8E, consider bid tabulation for 2015 arterial street maintenance program.
Morning, Michael Kramer with the engineering department. The first bid that I have for you is on the 2015 arterial collector resurfacing. And again, we have a budget of $1.5 million, and the projects include Severance from 11th to 17th, 30th Avenue from Main to Waldron, and then Lorraine Street north of 30th. And our base bid, we bid these in December. We had 4 plan holders. We received 2 bids, and our low bidder was Apex Shears, $1.4 million, and some change there. And then we did have an alternate on the project, and that was to do the milling and overlay portion of 30th Avenue in nighttime hours. And really, I think the memo explains it. The reason we had it in there was it'd been done in the past during the night, and we wanted to see, what kind of cost that would actually be to do. And in reviewing that, we would recommend to not award the nighttime work, but to award the base bid. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to discuss that further if you.
Michael, these various projects, what might be your time schedule throughout 2015?
It's
individual
expected
projects?
that, like Severance wouldn't start until after the school
Okay.
is let out. The other projects would probably start, they could start sooner, but they should be wrapped up by the end of July for
Wrapped
the
up by the end of
arterial.
July.
Yes. I believe that's the time frame that we have in the contract.
All right, do we have any further questions, or do we have a motion?
I would move to approve awarding the project to Apex Shears for the base bid amount of $1,436,760.21.
Thank you. Do we have a
Second.
second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8F, consider bid tabulation for 2015 residential street maintenance program.
Yeah, again, it's a project we had budgeted a little over $900,000. Our base bid was $654,255.10. We actually had 3 very competitive bids on the project, and again, APAC Kansas was the low bidder. And we also, we had alternate A, which is the parking at the Public Works facility, and alternate B, which is the parking lot at Fun Valley, or a portion of the parking lot at Fun Valley. And we are recommending that we award the base bid and both alternates. If you'll remember, the alternates at the time we bid it were unfunded, and we do have funding available for those in the CIP reserves, and then also in the street and the sewer and water budget. And then also along with that, since we are so far under budget, we are asking that we go ahead and pick up additional streets. Again, these are streets that were planned to be done in 2016. And we've talked to the contractor about those. We're already in the process of negotiating what that is. And right now it looks like that will be less than $200,000 for that additional work. We have about 258 available. And so we're asking for approval to go ahead and complete those negotiations, and for the city manager to be allowed to sign that change order once it's in place.
Okay, do we have any questions? Or do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the bid tabulation for the residential street maintenance program as presented by staff.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush.
Yes.
Soldner.
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho.
Yes.
Dave
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. This is quite a banner day. I don't remember any time when we had extra money or got to do extra things, and, wow. Okay, next item.
Item 9, report of city officials.
John, do you have anything this morning?
No, I do not.
All right, Jade?
I do have one thing that I made a note on that I wanted to mention very quickly. Just a quick comment about the editorial that was written following our last meeting regarding the revision of sign ordinance to allow for larger center identification signage. And maybe, John, you could clarify after I talk about this, but the editorial seemed to imply that the passage of that would allow for these behemoth signs to be placed anywhere throughout the city. So I wanted to clarify that in truth, those type of signs would be restricted to C4 zones with multiple businesses, which is a very small portion of our city. And this change was certainly preferable to the alternative that was allowed by code, which would have been to put up 14 separate signs. And wanted to mention that we adopted our new zoning regulations in 2011, knowing that we would need to make adjustments based on what is reasonable for our community. These revisions are the council's way of being more responsive to our business community's needs, and this particular revision was actually studied by the Planning Commission over the course of several months, so it was not a decision that was made lightly, and we did have input at the Planning Commission from other businesses. So, thank you.
Thank you for your helping to clarify that for the community. Bob, do you have anything this morning?
I guess the one thing I have is I just like to promote a local business. You always have to be careful when you do that, but I had the opportunity before council. I had some time, so I went down and got a cup of coffee at a new business called Brewed Awakening downtown, and it was excellent. I mean, I was really surprised. We have 2 coffee shops up on 17th, but in the downtown area, Brewed Awakening. Coffee was great. They had internet access. Got a blueberry muffin, which I shouldn't have done, but it was great. And I guess I would just like to just recommend that people think about places like that, because you don't typically think of the downtown area except for like the Anchor and some other restaurants. But it was really a nice little deal, and it's right next to Smith's Market. It's open, I think it was 6 a.m. to like 2 p.m., 2 or 3 p.m. So kind of a neat little place, and I'd like to encourage people to shop local.
I think she does lunch too, doesn't she?
Yeah, she had some lunch stuff listed.
Yeah,
You all didn't
okay.
get a free coffee, did you?
No, I didn't get free
Yeah.
coffee.
For that.
No,
Right now.
if I got a free coffee, I would have talked longer.
All right, do you have anything else?
No, I don't, thank you.
Nancy?
Nothing.
All right, and I don't have anything this morning either. Guess we'll turn it over and see if city manager has anything.
I really don't have anything. Just a reminder, tomorrow's the State of the City address at the Stringer Fine Arts Center at 7 a.m. And we're ready to rock and roll there, I think. Right, Cindy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then the employee recognition lunch that we've got scheduled for January 29th, 11:30 to 1 at the fire training facility, and certainly all of you are invited to attend that if you can, and we'll put you to work if you show up. So,
Okay.
I thought that was at
Repeat
Memorial
January.
Hall, so I'm glad you
Yeah,
you
right,
said that.
exactly.
It's a
Yeah,
fire
we-
training.
we went through a little more of a warmer feel out there, I think. Yeah. So,
And
11:30 to
12,
1.
11:30.
I don't have a meeting that day.
Very nice. This is where we recognize our employees for years of service. We give them their awards to that and other recognitions that have come about during the year. So,
Okay.
yeah, that is all that I have.
All right, thank you. Paul, do we need executive session? Are we ready for the contract or not?
You don't need an executive session for that. You
Okay.
just need to come talk to me.
All right. I think we are done here then. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Bush,
Yes.
Fullner,
Yes.
Tyra Carvalho,
Yes.
Dave Line,
Yes.
Crowett.
Yes. Thank you all.